I guess when asked by their friends how you're doing, of training people not to say fine, not to say I'm fine, because what is fine? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. What's up, peoples? It's your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy Omega.
Today, we are diving into the unknown topic of toxic positivity. What is it? How we personally experienced it? And some ways to recognize and even combat it. Join us as we also give a toast and remember Martin Luther King Jr. As every episode, we want to thank all of you for listening. We truly appreciate you listening to our hearts and minds on varied and difficult topics.
Special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their support of the show. Every little bit helps us reach our goals to invite more high-profile guests and create bonus content.
And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use that hashtag HADcast.
Remember, this is always a conversation. If you don't agree, you want to voice your opinions, or even suggest a topic for an episode, feel free to join our Discord as well. The link will be in the description.
And please, if you like what we're doing here, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Heck, make Have a Drink toys to teach your kids it's okay to cry and that you could do hard things. So,
thank you again.
And get prepared to sit,
think,
and have a drink.
Welcome to Have a Drink Podcast. Enjoy the episode.
We said, peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink Podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. We're your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And I'm your boy Omega.
Hey, and today we have a very interesting topic for you. I wanted us to talk a little bit about toxic positivity. For those of you, the possibly many of you that don't know what toxic positivity is, it's the assumption by either oneself or others that despite a person's emotional pain or difficult situation, they should only have a positive mindset or positive vibes. Like essentially, your whole outlook on life is like I have to be positive. If I'm only positive, the outcome will be better, rather than if I feel the pain, deal with the hardship, deal with the thing. I wanted to bring this up just because I was having a conversation the other day, and I was having it with someone who in that moment in time was very depressed, in a low state, state of vibrations, just dealing with internal demons, insecurities, etc. In that conversation, I was listening to them, and all I could hear them say, was negative or harming or bad things about themselves. And that in turn, I care about this person, and anybody I care about in my life, if someone's talking about them, I have the I don't want to let that person get away with it. So essentially I spoke up, but I spoke up in a way that, I've received also, which is like, you can't think that way. That's not a healthy way of thinking. That's going to set yourself up for failure in the future, rather than trying to set yourself up for success, thinking positively, putting positivity forward. The the expression "fake it till you make it" came to mind after doing some like diving into toxic positivity, and what I have now kind of gone back and examined with. Like I've been guilty of being that way, because I also heard the person also felt a recoil from that. I mean, I've been depressed. Telling somebody just be happy, or just, if you're just positive, everything will go get better. It hurts. And like it's not helpful, because I mean, you hear the way we talk on this podcast. Shit, there's nothing you're gonna say to me that I haven't already said to myself. Like, if you know me personally and I'm in your life, then you've already heard these words, definitely. you know? So, I mean, what would be the necessity of doing that other than pushing it onto other people? But then that can fall into a slippery slope of negating other people's personal experience, their feelings, their emotions, causing invalidation to their experience. I liken it to talking to our children. As an adult, to write your name on a piece of paper seems like the most remedial task out there. It's like the lowest level of tasks, so it takes no effort, right? Now bring in a child 5 years old, learning motor skills, learning letters, learning words, learning sentences, probably by 6, 7, and telling them to write their names and how hard it is for them. I'm taking this from like a personal experience as a kid, like of being told that and it just being the most difficult thing in the world, but hearing it's so easy. Why is this so hard for you? You've done this before. Why is this so hard for you? Not thinking that maybe this kid, maybe me, I'm at level 0 right now. I'm trying to gain some experience points to be able to get to level 1, you know? Whereas the person on the other end of that, you're like at level 35, you're level 40. What do you mean? Like, yeah, this is an easy thing to you, you know?
Thank you for bringing this topic up because it actually made me reflect on myself. When I read it, I was like, what is toxic positivity? And may I quote you?
You may.
Okay. Being so overly positive that you stomp out and invalidate someone else's experience. The only thing I could say was interesting. And I haven't shook that in my mind at all since I read them. And the reason why I say it made me look at myself is because I was really like, that was me at one time when I always was like trying to remain positive at all times, no matter what. Unconscious, when people are having a hard time, I always like to say something to encourage them to lift them back up, not realizing that in that moment I could be stomping out or invalidating their experience or their feelings. Because why? I feel like, you know, doing the opposite is better, right? The only way to stomp out hate is to give it love. Well, so only way to get rid of negativity is to give it positivity. Not realizing that I also need to allow them the space and the opportunity to feel their feelings, go through that deep dark moment and give them the building blocks to raise up out of that funk so they can too become more positive or find that. And what I actually started to learn and realize is I liked the silver lining aspect of it, or thinking about the eye of the storm, right? And I'm giving you these three things. I'm going to say that. So the silver lining, eye of the storm, and also sunshine without the rain. Those are the
Mm.
three things that I like to talk about and go through. And I like those three things because it doesn't go against the experience. It doesn't go against the negativity. It tells you that there's a reason for that, but there's always something that's going to come out of it. You just have to find it or get
Mm.
through it, right? So let's talk about the silver lining. The silver lining for me is, you're going through something, yes, but there's something that you can learn from this moment that you can that can come out positive or that can come out good, right? There's always something, so you just got to find it, right? Or well, let's go into the eye of the storm. So a lot of people are like, I gotta avoid this storm. I gotta avoid this storm. Or like a hurricane. Or no, the tornado. I gotta avoid this tornado. So dangerous, so scary. It's true. But where's the most peaceful and almost safest place to be in a tornado? In the eye of it, because that's where it is still. Everything's happening around it. So sometimes you have to find your stillness within the eye of the storm, and then you can find your way out. And then my third one is nobody ever appreciates the sunshine without the rain, you know? And it's like, yes, we love sunny days. California, it never rains in Southern California. Shout out to the Bay Area, Tony, right? Well, that sucks because they're susceptible to a lot of fires. That means they stay within a constant drought. If you're always positive at all times, eventually that positivity is going to run out and then it's going to become inflamed. Or you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be thirsty because nobody's ever pouring into you because you don't have those dark times, those times when you're needing that help. You're constantly giving, giving, giving to the point to where you have nothing else to give.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you can need that rain. And sometimes that rain is good for you. A good cry is good for you. You need that. You need to be flushed. You need to be hydrated.
Mm.
You need that pouring in. And that's what I feel. That's why those are my top three go tos. And through this podcast and through the hundreds of thousands of conversations I've had with you, I've learned about not invalidating people's experiences and learned how to work with them through. Now, how you brought up the kids and writing their name. And yes, you are 100% right. You hit that nail right on the head. I'm going to take you to my special ed thing that I did, and I'm figuring out how to work with it. So, your process is going with kids through gen ed, right? Where it's just a normal thing where they're just having that rigor of frustration. Well, in my area of working in special ed, I'm thinking about it in this terms. This kid is capable of doing everything else, but they lack the fine motor skills. So let me teach them how to hold the pencil. So we need to dial it back to teaching them the proper skills on how to just weather that storm to get from here. Then they're going to eventually get to here. And then we're going to keep working to get them to here. Now notice how it's getting there, but it's still incorrect. Look at how high I'm holding. That's just holding this. We didn't even get to the name yet. We address those big problems, yes, but we're getting there. When I teach kids how to write words or even letters, I'll use a highlighter. Why would I use a highlighter? So they can see my penmanship and how I write my letters, and then they can see their own penmanship and how to stay in the lines. And eventually, I'll just stop with one letter and be like, okay, so here, if your name is Adam, ADAM, I'm only going to give you ADA. You have to remember how to write the M on your own. It's teaching these people. Eventually, you're going to be able to do this on your own. But let's walk through this step by step. Let's get through this together.
Yeah, we're gonna be at different levels in this journey, but you know, so positivity may not always work for one person, from one person to another. We have a bit of a better understanding about toxic positivity, and like, I thank you for sharing that and opening up with that insight about yourself. I mean, it self-awareness, especially around toxicity in any form, is really important. That's the first step in being able to heal it. Actually, it's interesting because toxic positivity has started to rise since the pandemic started, you know? Um
I didn't know that.
yeah, like it's why there are so many spiritual influencers on social media and whatnot that are reminding you. So the spiritual influencers are reminding you to uh feel that pain. It's okay to not do anything. It's okay to not be okay right now because this is a not okay time. You know, like those are the individuals that are reminding you about staying true to your experience. Whereas self-help influencers, they're in that space of capitalizing on that pain and struggle that you're going through,
I see what you did there.
as well as taking the positivity to that toxic level,
Yeah,
you know. um because like especially since the pandemic started, you'll have friends, family members, individuals that are losing loved ones, people they know, neighbors, coworkers, you know, that they're losing, and others are telling them, you know, look on the bright side, at least you have this, you know. People are losing their jobs. I know someone who recently lost their job because of the pandemic. They were told, you know, hey, you look at it this way, at least you know you have a severance package that came with this, so you have money. At least your partner still has a job. At least you still have your home. At least you still have your health. where and like like to make sure we're grateful for all the things that we still have. Where and like they were telling me, they're like, well, I am grateful for those things. Like, don't get me wrong. That's those two experiences are not mutually exclusive. Like
Hmm.
I could still be grateful for all the things that I still do have. I could look at the silver lining. I could, like I can appreciate the sunshine now, but this is still a very shitty situation. I lost my job, something that I wanted to be in for 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, whatever, how many years, and now I'm being told that I can't be in this company anymore, and I have to look on the bright side. I
Yeah.
have to look on the bright side.
Not I should, but I have to look at the bright side.
Right. I mean, you just take it a little step further, and I mean, toxic positivity has existed for a long time, and especially when it came to the imbalance of what I feel between genders. You know, men walking on the street, feeling emboldened to tell women to smile. It'll make you feel better, look prettier, what have you, you know?
Guilty of that, especially as a young guy. Guilty of that, not realizing what I was doing.
But you learn and then you grow and you try to correct that. But I'm saying like that's another string of what toxic positivity can do, because as the outlook is to just constantly be positive, and that will combat the negative.
Yeah.
And so if you see someone who doesn't look like they're enjoying their day, or or someone who doesn't look like they're happy at the moment, trying to interject into their
Yeah.
life in that moment to tell them to be happy might might not work.
That's true. Yeah, man, you made some beautiful, valid points, and I'm so thankful that you brought that out right now. Um, and it's very important that we do pay attention to these things. Very important. Um, and this is a term that not a lot of people have heard of. I mean, I know I haven't at all. I've never heard of toxic positivity. You know, um, and that's important. This is an important thing to talk about and bringing this to light, because sometimes we have to remember we need to go through those dark times, and we need to just let it be. Let somebody be sad, let them cry, let them
Absolutely.
be angry, let them feel some type of way, like I'm going to be real. I'm not very happy because I'm making half the money I was making before, and that puts a lot of stress and strain on me personally, on my family, on my household, everything, right? And I may not talk about that to everybody, but I talk about that to those that need to know, and that's okay. And I'm saying that's okay now because why? I had time to process this, but in the moment, man, I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to be around nobody. I just needed to be with me and figure this out. I'm not one to be like asking for money. I'm not one to be asking for help all the time, especially in that area, because why? It's like, well, Anthony, you put yourself in a situation, you got to get yourself out. And some people are like, well, why don't you just act? Because I did it to me. I got to get myself out. And that's my mindset. I may need to change that up. I may need to switch that, but that's okay. I need to get through that. I don't need people to be like, well, at least you have a place to live. At least you have food in your belly. At least you got food in your kitchen. At least you got this. At least nigga, I know I'm eating in anger. I'm upset in my own house, but that still doesn't change the fact that I need money. That does not change that fact. What it does do though is it lights a fire under me to tell me, let's pivot. Let's figure out a way to do something. Let me go through this. Let me figure out what I can do to change my situation so I can do better. But allow me that space to do so.
You mentioned something really important. You said it a couple times here in this moment, but you also said it earlier when you were replying. And that was what you learned. You learned how to give space. I think you were learning how to, you were saying, the idea is to not try to invalidate their feelings, but in turn give space, because space was given is something that you want given to you during those times, right? You want somebody to hold space. And I think we've said it a few times in the earlier episodes of the podcast, but giving space is the most important thing you can do for people. I mean, it's I guess it's one of my unconscious superpowers, like as to why people just randomly walk up to me, and will feel comfortable enough to share their personal information about like their hardship or whatever they're having because I mean, I understand. That's just that's one of the many ways of how to deal with toxic positivity. For a moment, just to go down that rabbit hole and to kind of give more leeway on how we can actually deal with it. Not just within ourselves, but with others. So one would be to avoid ignoring or stuffing your emotions. Acknowledge how you feel and feel all of your emotions, good or bad. Sit with them. Avoiding how you feel will basically prolong the suffering. I akin it to the Buddhists saying of anger is like holding a hot coal to throw it. You're holding on to it at the moment and you're suffering just so that you can unleash it onto somebody else.
That was deep.
Holding space for yourself is what this first step is for, and that's to teach you how to hold space for yourself so that you are able to hold it for other people. The idea that you can't love other people until you love yourself. You can't truly love someone else until you love yourself. That goes along the same lines of like if you can't afford yourself that same space to feel, experience, and be, how are you going to know how to do that with someone else? So one way of dealing with that, if you're not someone that's easy to sit with and just sit there and experience, I mean, right, have a good talk with someone or write it down. It lets you tap into what your subconscious is trying to tell you. The next step, I would say, would be to listen and validate how others feel. So now that you've kind of given yourself that ability to hold space, now actually use it to listen and validate. A lot of times, even when it's different than how you feel, a lot of times people listen to respond and not listen to understand. So I'm like, everyone's entitled to their own feelings. Don't shame another person or for their emotions. Like if they're feeling down, if they're feeling bad, telling them the way they're thinking is very toxic and unhealthy for them is not going to be supportive. It's not going to be something that will give them energy to overcome that hardship that they're going through, it's really important to acknowledge that others may not cope with things the same way you do. Listening to them and being able to relate to whatever it is, that validation, even though you're not feeling that in that moment, validation can easily come from a skill within empathy, which is putting yourself in that person's shoes. For a moment, think back to a time you went through something just like that, and instead of what you want to say in that moment, resonating with it and actually speaking the feelings that came behind it of, that hurts, I'm sorry that you're going through that, that is a hard thing. You hear us on this podcast say, a lot of times of like, thank you for sharing that. That's a hard experience to go through, or those are hard emotions. It's because we're honestly just relating and understanding, because shit, that's hard. Like, and sharing your feelings, your emotions, and whatnot is hard enough to have people come back and say thank you for doing that hard thing. It means more than just kind of brushing over it and moving on to the next topic. The next step would be to remember, like I said before, like I said, the spiritual influencers are trying to remind people, the individuals that are connected with people are trying to remind everyone that it's okay not to be okay. Especially, I mean, even if someone's sharing something with you and you don't feel okay, it's okay not to be okay. Give yourself time and space to be imperfect. Next one is remember that feelings aren't mutually exclusive. Being grateful for what you have and being upset for what you've lost are not mutually exclusive feelings. Also, be realistic. like there are a lot of ways to be there's a lot of ways about like going through situations about handling things. Like be realistic with what you can handle and with what you can't, you know? And more so in dealing with others who might be projecting that toxic positivity onto you, like you can recognize it with, people saying choose happiness or positive vibes only, etc. What remember that what makes positivity toxic is that it dismisses others' genuine emotions. Um, if the message is that positivity is the only or best way to go, that's problematic. You don't have to engage with it. It's not something you need to combat, you know? Obviously it's still going to affect you, but to remember that in the same way that toxic positivity can dismiss the genuine experience that you're having, you can also choose to dismiss the toxicity that they're trying to push onto you.
You actually made me think about a saying that I say, and I want you to actually tell me would this how does this sound to you in regards to toxic positivity? When people ask me, "How are you doing?" and I say, "I'm good." Even when I'm doing bad, I'm still good because I'm alive to go through it. When I'm speaking about myself, when I'm speaking in regards to me, I'm saying I'm acknowledging that I'm okay. Things could be going bad in this life or at this moment, but I'm still doing well because I'm alive to go through it and I'll find my way through it. How does that sound?
It sounds honestly borderline toxic positivity. But I say that because I feel like it negates the bad experience, but not to the extent of where it's toxic. That's why I say it's borderline. Like it's like there's still the acknowledgement that even if I'm bad, I'm doing good. You're doing that. The out of bad can still come good. You're also not trying to push that onto others. I guess a counter question to that is, do you feel as if you saying that is you negating the bad experience that you're having?
I feel like I'm acknowledging it, but not dwelling on it. So it's like I'm acknowledging, yeah, things ain't perfect, things ain't great, grand, stupendous on my end right now, but I'm still good because you know what? I can get through this. And that's where I'm at. And that's my mindset is things may be bad at the moment. I'm gonna get through it. I gotta fight through it. How am I gonna do it? I don't know yet, but I'm gonna get through it. Cause nothing bad lasts forever, just like nothing good lasts forever. I'm
The
still gonna get through it.
right. The
You
only
know,
thing that's permanent is impermanence. Do we as a society have an inherent aversion to handling other people's emotions?
I don't know.
Because I see it so often when someone's in public, or someone, like someone's in public and they're like having a hard day, and they're crying. People will they'll avoid eye contact. They'll avoid you acknowledging that person. um when someone, I've heard this in real life, in real time, craziest thing ever, a friend walking up to the group and being like, yo, how you doing? And the person saying, not so good. A lot of things are falling apart right now. I don't do like I'm stressed out. I feel like I'm gonna lose this. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm very sad. It's like I'm more stressed out than I've ever been. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. Another person in the group said, you could have just said fine like everybody else.
No way.
Yes way.
Just totally disregarded every that whole verbal vomit of emotion that just came out.
Yes.
That speaks to both people because that right there showed you, yes, there are those that decide to just sidestep that and be like, well, I'm not trying to deal with your problems. I got my own problems to deal with. So we're just gonna slide on past that. And then you have the other person that looked for that was actually giving that moment of vulnerability, looking for somebody to just listen, maybe not even solve the problem, but just listen to help them
Mm,
sift through what they needed. And they
mm.
lost that space automatically. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like there's a saying. So I went through this Human Awareness Institute is the organization, but like it they deal with like interpersonal personal and interpersonal relationships, like how to how to communicate. And one of the things that we talked about, especially like when it comes like to retrain how you're expressing what you're going through. So being that other person that is saying and spewing their hardships, whatever it is they're going through, venting in that time, I guess when asked by their friends how you're doing, you know, of training people not to say fine, not to say I'm fine, because what is fine? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Wow. Well, you just told me about myself, sir.
Well, I mean, I say it as well. Like, I say I'm fine, but that is holding it holds so much more because you're going through all these things. You're a human. You stumble, you fail, you succeed. You're sad, you're happy, you're scared, you're emotional, you're feeling all these things, and especially right now more than ever, you're gonna feel these things. So, like, I feel like as a society, we've trained each other not to express our true emotions, not to express our hard feelings, because everybody wants to deal with their own fine.
I want to give a shout out to MLK Day, this man right here, this great man right here, this icon. And I'm saying this specifically because obviously today is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This icon is so positive in everybody's eyes and everybody's go to of be like Dr. King. All of you need to be like him. But just remember, before this man was sent to the ancestral plane, you guys hated him. He was trying to bring that light of positivity, and you snuffed his light out because you guys didn't like the realm of positivity that he was bringing. You didn't like the realm of positivity that he was bringing. You didn't like the realm of positivity that he was bringing. And all he wanted to do was bring it for all people, not just his people. This is what happens when somebody's trying to be positive and you view their positivity as something dangerous or scary. This man was extremely flawed in his own personal ways, and that's what made him great. Through his flaws, he was still able to incite change, to bring
Mm.
change to the world. So I want to say thank you for all that you've done, all that you were, and all that you will continue to be in the thoughts, minds, and hearts and lives and history of not just black people, but all people. Salute to you, Dr. King.
R.I.P.
With that had been said, he was trying to be as positive as ever in the pulpit, talking about where we are going to be, where he sees us to be, where he would like us to come as a whole people. And some people found that positivity, that light, they found that to be toxic. He came and showed that he had the I'm fine face all the time. In reality, people were threatening him, his family, his children, his well being, his congregation, his everything. But he still showed up with the I'm fine face, knowing good and well that he was probably torn up inside and deathly afraid. But in the face of fear, still showed courage.
Courage. That like that word, it triggered something because I was like, bravery is stupidity. I think courage is being able to do something in spite of being afraid.
I mean, how old was he when he passed?
He's 39.
Think about that. I am, this year will make me 3 years away from when he passed. This man passed away in his 30s
Mm.
from standing in his truth. This is crazy to me. And I'm talking about this because toxic positivity can be something that we see for ourselves, but then other people will see about you. and we'll figure out something else to do.
Perspective. It is the foundation in misunderstandings.
So thank you, Dr. King, for allowing us to stand on your shoulders and continue to try and push this narrative of change, togetherness, humanity, love.
I have a question for the Discord. Actually, I have a couple of questions for the Discord. They all are intertwined. First, do you believe in toxic positivity?
Great question.
That it's something that exists? Do you recognize it within yourself or others? And what is another way you can combat toxic positivity?
Great questions. Thank you to the Patreon. Thank you to everybody that's been supporting the podcast thus far. And we're looking forward to all of our new members that will be joining us in the near future. Please like, share, subscribe, help us out as much as possible. You know, like those, or let me be that guy. Smash those like buttons. Subscribe right now. You know, but no, but for those though, please help us out. That's all I can say.
Hey, you. Yeah, you listening at home. If you want to join in this conversation outside of here, you can join us on our Twitter or Instagram at Have a Drinkcast, and make sure to use the hashtag HADcast. That way we could check out anything you post, and we can enjoy it and or comment on it on another show. Um, yeah.
What are you drinking on when you're listening to the channel? Take a
Ooh.
picture and shoot it to us on our social media, and put it up with a hashtag Hadcast. All right, may I?
You absolutely may.
All right, so I just want to do something real special, kind of different. I know I don't care, man. I'm gonna do it anyways because I can, and I'm a co-host on this podcast. Therefore, I just want to give a great shout out because by the time this episode airs, it will have passed already. I would like to give a huge, huge, giant shout out and happy birthday to my lovely wife, the one right there in the middle, my wife, Mariela. Hopefully, you guys can hear me fine. That's my wife. This is my daughter, right here. My daughter, Janessa. My wife, Mariela. You guys know who this ugly dude is on the side with the goatee and this cheap smile. But this is my wife's birthday on Wednesday. Wednesday was her birthday, so I just want to tell you, happy birthday, happy belated birthday. You deserve all the love, accolades, and attention that you get. I appreciate you. I thank you. I love you with all my being. If you are my heart, my daughter is my beat. That's what keeps me on my feet. Thank you. Happy birthday.
And with that, from me to you.
Let me put it back. Hopefully, we don't get flagged for that. Oh, my
That's
Lancer.
why I only played the instrumental.
Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy birthday.
All right.
All right.
It's about that time.
Yomp, yomp.
Closing time. Closing time. All right, brother. I implore you to raise your glass. Hey, kings, queens, and royals in between. I want to thank y'all for joining us for another successful episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we'll invite y'all back to sit, think, and have a drink. That's been us. Peace.
Peace.